Hey guys, welcome to Diaz on Deck Travel. I'm Michelle. Today is April 21st, 2026. It's only Tuesday, but we have so much cruise news to go over. But before we jump in, let me ask you to please hit your notification bell, like and subscribe. It helps me to grow the channel and bring you more cruise news and take you on my next adventure. I do want to share with you some good news from Royal Caribbean. Legend of the Seas is in the process of completing her sea trials. They are checking everything from propulsion to engines to making sure this is the most seaworthy vessel they have. And then once that is completed, they will start the final touches on the interior. So this is really exciting and I cannot wait to share that with you in the future. But let's jump into the current cruise news. Princess has ordered 3 new ships and they are in the Voyager class. They are going to be 183,000 tons and carry over 4,700 passengers. They will come out in 2035, 2038, and 2039. Now, there are only 3 major shipyards in the world, and cruise lines have to put their orders in early. And those are Meyer Turku, Fincantieri, and STX. So the orders are in for these new cruise ships, but again, there are only a certain amount of allocated spaces in these shipyards to build cruise ships. So currently, let's talk about the Middle East and fuel surcharges. There are no fuel surcharges currently on cruises, but we are starting to see some of that allocated to airfares. So keep an eye on your airfares. Now, remember, cruise lines do have that written into their cruise contract that they can allocate that right to pass on a fuel surcharge to its cruisers. However, luckily, we do not have that happening at the moment. And guys, cruising is just growing in leaps and bounds. I mean, last year there was 37.2 million cruisers, and this year, I think they're expecting almost double. And that's between reoccurring cruisers and new cruisers. So no fuel surcharges at the moment. We do have some good news from MSC. So MSC had to cancel all of their Dubai cruise season, and because they were stranded in the Straits of Hormuz. Well, the MSC Euribia escaped the strait. MSC Euribia hightailed it out of there and made it through the strait safely and is on its way to Northern Europe. And it is now going to resume its cruise season out of Northern Europe. They have contacted those individuals who were previously canceled and offering them to rebook their cruise. So that is good news for MSC. Also, MSC is completing their new private island, Sandy Cay, and that is just right across from the MSC Marine Reserve that they currently have. And they literally built this island, you guys. They basically took the sand and built this island. So it's going to be more of a private luxury resort, and I cannot wait to go there and bring you that information. Well, we have 2 stories from Carnival, and we have another story from Virgin. So the Virgin Voyages cruise that got canceled was a cruise leaving from New York that was supposed to go to Bermuda. And so 2 individuals took to social media to complain about Virgin Voyages and the rescheduling of their cruise stop. They were slated to leave from New York and stop in Bermuda, but because of extreme weather conditions, they were rerouting to New Brunswick. Now, I totally get it. You're planning on a hot weather cruise in Bermuda, and now you're going to a cold climate. So, you know, the good news is you got 3 days notice, because sometimes that happens while you're right on board. And you have to understand that this is for the safety of the vessel, the crew, and mostly for your safety. And, you know, a lot of times it happens when you're on board and there's really nothing you can do and no control over it. But at least this incident, you got to plan and repack with some warmer clothes. But, you know, stating that they were only offered a $100 onboard credit and why weren't they going somewhere like Jamaica? The problem is it's a short cruise and there would not have been enough time to get to that destination. And cruise lines are required to go to a foreign port every time they cruise. So, you know, that is just not feasible at this point. But, consider yourself lucky because cruise lines don't have to offer you anything. And they did get offered $100 compensation. Do you guys think that was sufficient, or would you rather have canceled your cruise? Tell me in your comments. I love to know your thoughts. And another story from Carnival Cruise Line is the SEA program. This is an adults-only cruise that is geared for casino players. And they've had a really good response with that. So now they may be looking at what Virgin does and offer a whole series of adult-only cruises. I'm not starting a rumor, I'm just anticipating they're probably considering it. And unfortunately, also on Carnival, we've had a man overboard situation. A 77-year-old man climbed over the safety railing and jumped overboard. And this was on the Carnival Splendor. And unfortunately, after an intense search, he was not recovered. The cruise has since come back to port, and Carnival is supporting the family in this very trying time. Now, the last piece of Carnival news, I don't know how I feel about it, but let's find out how you guys feel about it. A nurse out of California took a 3-day cruise, which you guys know is a booze cruise. Those short cruises, everybody's doing the drinking and the partying, and it's pretty severe. And she won $300,000 in a suit against Carnival because she said she was overserved. She had 14 shots in a very short amount of time. And the court awarded her the money, saying she was 40% culpable, but the cruise line was 60% culpable. Well, I mean, if she's going to different bars intentionally, maybe to hide the fact that she was ordering too much, or the fact that, no bartender in particular noticed that she was inebriated, how much responsibility is it really of the cruise line versus the passenger? Now, on land, if you overdo it at a bar, they will cut you off. But, she went to 8 different bars in a period of time. And, nobody was looking at her, sail and sign to see how many drinks she had ordered, or, the time frame in between. So how much is her responsibility? I know that Carnival is contesting the decision, but do you think that there's going to be a change to the drink packages going forward? Like, a lot of cruise lines, they don't even have a limit because they feel like people want to just push it to the limit. So maybe they're going to take the limit off, or perhaps they're going to start stretching the amount of time between each drink, or they're going to limit how many straight up shots versus how many mixed drinks. I have no information on that, but I do see that because they lost this case at the moment, there's probably going to be a change. What do you guys think about that story and any of the stories that we've talked about today? Well, I love hearing your comments, and I look forward to seeing you on deck and taking you on my next adventure.